July 14, 1977. At 8:37, lightning knocked out 2 feeder cables in Westchester County, north of the city. The disruption caused Indian Point to trip off, to automatically cease operation. 18 minutes later, 2 more lines were hit by lightning and tripped. In less than 20 minutes, New York had lost 65% of its ability to import power.
Let's start a riot! A riot! Let's start a riot! Let's start a riot! A riot! Let's start a riot!
Incredible as it may seem, this is the same New York City we live in. A New York City that was much more chaotic, however, and a New York City that is now looked back upon with many criticisms.
The city was a lot dirtier.
A lot of social problems in the city.
New York City also burned several times.
The causes of these social problems were economic. An unbalanced budget and a growing debt was basically leading Newark on a highway to fiscal crisis, actually. A fiscal crisis occurs when a unit of government, city, state, or national, runs a fiscal deficit and is unable to borrow money to finance it. How did Newark ever get into this social mess, and how did the fiscal crisis happen?
In the last year of the Wagner administration, Wagner, who preceded Mayor Lindsay, began the process of borrowing money, issuing city general obligation bonds, which were sold, and the money used not for capital projects, which is what it's supposed to be used for, but was used to pay current expenses.
Not only was there a misuse of money, there was also a strategic misclassification of money going on as well. Economics professor Paul Goldberg explains.
In some cases, no one knew what the numbers were. There were literally no books for this. Other cases, the accounting practices were filled with gimmicks like classifying current expenditures as capital expenses.
Classifying current expenditures as capital expenditures was one way of making New York City bonds look appealing, as it meant that the city would supposedly develop capital, which would in turn bring it revenue. However, this did not fix the underlying budgetary issues.
The city borrowed money from banks to pay current expenses, which is normal, but it's supposed to be repaid within the year that it's borrowed, and the city didn't repay it, and the banks said they would roll it over, and when I came into office, the banks had rolled over $6 billion that the city had borrowed from the banks, which is called short-term debt. So the city effectively was bankrupt.
The city requested aid from President Gerald Ford. This was done to no avail and incurred the famous headline, "Ford to City, Drop Dead." Social consequences would soon ripple throughout the city.